Hello. We're live. It's all happening. Let me make sure my mic. I just turned it off. Let me make sure it's loud enough. Okay. Hi. Happy Friday. It's Chris. It is 1 o'clock on the East Coast. I have my caramel macchiato. Let's see, what did I do this week? I was in New York. I spoke at a Wellbeing at Work summit, which was kind of cool. Wait, my hat is off kilter. Sorry, I have a hat on. Which was cool. I wrote about that on my Substack today. You can subscribe, chrisliza.substack.com. You should. Let's see. All right. So what else do I have on the agenda? Not much. Subscribe to this thing that we're doing. It's fun. It's great. It's informative. Okay. Okay. Oh, this is important. This was a question that was submitted in advance. Pretty please remove the Dianne Feinstein videos where there are 2 instances of this topic. So I thought I had got them all, but I went back this morning when I saw this early and I got rid of the last 2. There should be no more Dianne Feinstein videos on this channel. If there are, I'm sorry, but I think I've got them all. Okay. Let's go. Questions. Vad. Hi, Chris. Do you think more Dem voters will mobilize the closer it gets to November 5th? And what's your expectation of turnout on both sides compared to 2020? Thanks. Great question. I wish I was smarter and could tell you I knew what turnout would be. So I do think that Democrats are going to become more united. I think that right now there's still some people on the Democratic side who are like, Joe Biden, I don't know. But look, the reality of elections, I always say this, right? Like, here's the deal. If these are your 2 choices, right? Mouse or Starbucks cup, you can't choose hammer. You got to choose mouse or Starbucks cup, right? It's a binary choice election. And I think if the choices are Biden and Trump, a lot of Democrats are going to come home because they do not want Donald Trump to be president of the United States again. So I do think there's going to be at least some movement back toward Biden, and Biden's numbers will bump up a little bit. You know, how much do some Democrats stay home? Do some young Democrats stay home because Biden is too old or they don't like his policies on the Middle East? Sure. I just don't know how much yet. As for turnout, I mean, it was massive turnout in 2020, right? 81 million votes for Trump, for Biden, 74 million for Trump. I would assume it will be similar-ish. There's a little less energy right now around the campaign. I don't think people love the idea of a rematch between 2 older guys who are pretty deeply flawed. So I don't know. My guess would be slightly lower than 2020, but I still think it'll be pretty high. Anyway, good question. Let's see. Phil, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name, Phil, and I apologize. This is echoing on the last question. Was 2020 a high watermark for engagement because of pandemic boredom, or do you think we will approach or exceed the record number of people voting? So I don't think we're going to go over 2020, and I don't think it was just pandemic boredom. Remember, a lot of laws were passed in states that made it easier to vote early, to vote absentee, right, because of the pandemic, right? Remember, November 2020, we were in the teeth of the pandemic. November 2024 is obviously going to be very different. So I would guess that it will be lower. How much lower? I don't really know. Who does a lower turnout election help? I would say marginally Trump, because I think the Trump base is 1,000% for him and will vote no matter what. I think the Biden base is a little bit more fractured. So probably Trump marginally, but I don't know how much. Let's see. Chris Murphy 2000 said, I'm sorry there are so many trolls commenting here and on your Twitter. Man, don't worry about it. Don't be sorry. I'm totally used to it. So just by way of context, yesterday on my Twitter/X feed, I just posted, I was doing a thing on the Electoral College for my newsletter, my Substack newsletter. And I was just looking at like where various sites had the Electoral College right now. And I came across CNN, my old employer, and they had it 272 Trump, 225 Biden with 40 votes as toss-ups. And I was like, that's kind of interesting because 270 is what you need to win. So if things stay like this, according to CNN, Trump's going to win. So I just posted, according to CNN, Trump already has 272 electoral votes. People went insane. Like, dude, this is just me presenting what CNN is saying based on their rankings. I'm not rooting for Donald Trump. I'm not rooting for Joe Biden. I don't think that what it says today on whatever March 15th is determinative in some meaningful way of where it's going to wind up. But people went insane. It has 1 million impressions right now, which, dude, whatever. But thank you, but don't worry about it. I am used to people trolling me and telling me how stupid I am, and how I don't know anything about politics and blah. How it was great CNN got rid of me. Yeah, I'm used to it. Let's see. Chris Hyde, great name. I'm curious what books you're reading now. It sounds like you enjoy more types of books than political commentary, such as suspense or thrillers. Is that true? Yes. So this year, I sort of set out as a goal to try in the first couple months of the year to read the 10. Is it 10 or 5? It's either 5 or 10 books that made the New York Times best fiction. I'm reading a lot of fiction. New York Times best fiction list. So I've read The Bee Sting by Paul Murray. I've read The Fraud by Zadie Smith. I've read, what am I reading right now? Oh, I'm reading Tom's Lake right now by Ann Patchett, which I love. I read Chain Gang All-Stars, which is amazing if you have not read. All of those I recommend. I like The Fraud the least out of those. I like The Bee Sting Bee Sting or Chain Gang All-Stars the best, and I'm in the middle of Tom's Lake. I'm also reading regularly. There's 21 of these books. Louise Penny is a mystery writer. She lives in Canada. They're called the Inspector Gamache series. I think that's how you pronounce it. That's how I pronounce it in my head. There are 21 books. I think I'm on book 18. I've written about them in my Substack. I've talked about them. I love them. If you have good nonfiction recommendations, I'd love to take them. I will say, if you are me and you spend your whole life in politics, writing and talking about it, you do kind of like to take a break sometimes and not read, only political books. Let's see what I have. So let me just show you from books that are on my to read list that are nonfiction. This is American Woman, The Transformation of the Modern First Lady from Hillary Clinton to Joe Biden by Katie Rogers, who I worked with at the Washington Post, but who is now at the New York Times. That's one to check out. And this one intrigues me too. This is called The City is Up for Grabs, How Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot Led and Lost a City in Crisis by Gregory Royal Pratt. So both of those are on my sort of to-do read list. They're over here. Underneath them is the Almanac of American Politics, which I don't read because it's too long, but those are 2 nonfiction I'm thinking about reading. Good question. Let's see. And by the way, I'm just trying to go through these in the order they came in. So if I haven't gotten your question yet, don't worry about it. A lot of people ask questions before the chat started, so I'm just trying to roll through them. This is Canadian citizen number 273. Okay, I just mentioned Canada. Say Trump loses in 2024. What are the odds he can still make a comeback in 2028? 60-40 in favor of him making a comeback. Maybe 70-30. Look, I don't think Donald Trump is going away as a figure in the Republican Party and in politics more generally until he dies. I just don't. The Republican Party is effectively now a cult of personality with Trump as its leader. So I don't think that's going to change. Look, if he loses in 2024, what's he going to say? I was robbed. It was rigged. They had all these election trials again. They had all these trials and charges against me, right? Of course, that's what he's going to say. That's what he always says. And there'll be a lot of people who believe him, and people who say like he needs to run again. He needs to root out the deep state, right? It's totally a thing. So yes, I 60. Let me change it. I said 60-40, 65-35. Let's see. By the way, Space Cadet, thanks for the donation. Folks, if you do want to donate, I'm happy to take anything. This Grande Caramel Macchiato cost me $6. This is how I make my livelihood, this in my Substack, so I'm happy to have it. Thank you, Space Cadet 65. Johnny Heritage, will Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, Chris Sununu, and the like have a place at the Republican National Convention? Most certainly not. Definitely not Pence. I'm very skeptical of Sununu, although I know he's endorsed Donald Trump. There's the thumbs up. Wait, let me see if I can do it. Double thumbs. Yes. I'm being celebrated. So not Pence, probably not Sununu. I'm very skeptical about Haley, although it's a possibility. She could endorse him, and she is a figure who got a lot of votes, so maybe it makes sense to have her speak at some point. The other two, I doubt. Space Cadet 65 says the new RNC's agenda genuinely scares me for our future as a country. Talk me off the ledge. Well, I don't know exactly. You're probably talking about Agenda 2025, which is not the RNC. It's the Heritage Foundation, sort of laying out what a Trump second term would look like. I'd recommend people read. It's 887 pages. You're probably not going to read the whole thing, but I would recommend people read a thing by my friend Carlos Lozada at the New York Times. He read it and sort of went through. It's like a blueprint for what a Trump administration could look like. And yeah, I mean, look, there's politicizing the Justice Department. There's rooting out people not loyal to Donald Trump in the sort of broader bureaucracy, the civil service. There's the mass deportation of immigrants. There's a lot in there. So yeah, I'm not going to talk you off that ledge. Look, what I've said and what I believe is this. I don't think Donald Trump is going to turn America into a dictatorship. There are too many fail safes in place to make that happen. That said, he clearly defines democracy in the presidency differently than anyone we've had in that office before, and wants to stretch the bounds of democracy in the presidency in ways we haven't had before. So, yeah, I mean, I think that is true, and therefore the agenda is going to reflect that fact. Okay, let's see. Kate, do you think RFK Jr. will pull even a few percentage points from Trump? I think he'll pull a few percentage points. I don't know if we can say like from Trump or from Biden. I'm intrigued to see who he picks as his VP. Like I've written on my Substack, which you can subscribe to and you should, and pay for it. It's only $5 a month, less than this coffee. I've written that I think Aaron Rodgers is a bad dude for a number of reasons, but one of which is the COVID misinformation stuff and the vaccine conspiracy theories, and he thinks he's smarter than everyone, blah, 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 blah. That said, like if Aaron Rodgers is the VP, that's something that people will pay attention to outside of politics. I don't think RFK Jr. and Aaron Rodgers are getting elected, but I do think that they could get 8, 9, 10% of the vote. I'm still skeptical, by the way, that Aaron Rodgers gives up his NFL career to run for vice president on a long shot ticket. But that's a side point. So yeah, I think RFK Jr. is going to get a bunch of votes. It depends where they come from, right? Like if he gets 5% or 6 or 7 or 8% in California, it doesn't matter. Joe Biden's still going to win California. If he gets 5, 6, 7% in Wisconsin, that could change things, right? So yeah. Anubov C. What's my opinion of why Biden isn't utilizing executive action regarding the border situation? It seems like he has potential to gain significant support without risking losing voters. So I think Biden thinks he's done most of what he can do via executive action, and he doesn't want to do any more because you can only do so much, right? It's built into the system that the executive, at least at this point, can only do so much on the border or almost anything else that you need congressional approval. I also think, look, they came up with a bipartisan compromise that Republicans rejected. He talked about it in the State of the Union address. So, I do think immigration is a major issue. I don't think the Biden people have totally settled on how they should talk about it. I think he is divided himself on how to talk about it. Maybe you will see more executive action as we get closer to the election if it continues to be a problem, right? I think that's a possibility. But yeah, that's an interesting question. But what I would say is broadly, executive action isn't like a fix it, right? It's not a fail safe. Like there's plenty of ways in which that can be eroded or not work. Let's see. David McLaughlin, how many, and if they exist, what does a Clinton 2016, Biden 2020, Trump 2024 voter look like? Man, that's hard. Let me tell you what I think a Biden 2020, Trump 2024 voter looks like. It's hard to go back like 8 years, to be totally honest. What does somebody who voted for Biden in 2020 and will vote for Trump in 2024, how do they think? One, they've sort of forgotten memory hold some of the worst things Trump did. 2, they think the media is unfair broadly to Trump and that he actually isn't as out there as people say. 3, they think, again, a little bit contra facts, but they think that things were better economically under Trump than they were under Biden. And 4, even though Trump is 77 and Biden is 81, they think Biden is too old to be president. I think that's what that voter looks like. I'm not totally sure. Anyway, Matthew Tondrew, what can be done to save Hoya basketball? Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I know most of you don't care about Georgetown basketball, but I went to Georgetown and we don't really have a good football team. I do follow Georgetown soccer. Their men's soccer team is amazing. But the reason I went was Georgetown basketball. We won 2 games in the Big East this season. We won 8 overall games. I think we are in the right place with Ed Cooley, the former Providence coach, is now our coach. He had a terrible season. They were worse than I thought they would be. We have the number 17 recruiting class in the country coming in. Let's see what next year looks like, right? I'm willing to give another year. Dwayne Raspberry, great name. Hello, Chris. Hello, Dwayne. Realistically, how much should we believe in the polling? I think you should believe in the polling. I mean, like, I may be the last person on polling island, but like my general belief about polling is that taken in the aggregate, it's pretty good. A lot of people who say polling doesn't work are really saying, I don't like what the polls say, right? So let's just take recently. I think it is fair to say when you look at the aggregate of all the pretty good polling out there, Donald Trump is probably ahead nationally by a couple points, and in most swing states by somewhere between 1 and 4 points. Okay. Um, that's a snapshot in time. That's where the race is today. That does not mean, nor is the poll an intention to prove that that's where the race will be on November 5th. I think people misunderstand that. This is an attempt to say, right now, this is where the race is. That does not mean that that will be the exact same result in November. Is it indicative slightly of that? Maybe, right? Like, I mean, I do think Trump is a little bit ahead right now broadly. And if I had to pick who would win the election if it was held today, I'd pick Trump. But this idea that like polling is broken, I'd urge you, go to my Substack. It's a free post. It's entitled something, I'm paraphrasing here, but what Joe Biden gets wrong about polling. Because Biden this past week, he was in New Hampshire and he said, polling is broken. They can't get anybody on the phone anymore. Like that's kind of a too basic understanding or analysis of where polling is. Pollsters are doing everything they can to get it right. I've worked at 2 big organizations, right? The Washington Post and CNN. Both had polling units. Both organizations had great, smart, thoughtful people doing their polling. So to just be like, polling sucks, I don't buy it. Let's see. Barrage Guha. Hi, Chris. It seems Wisconsin will be deal maker breaker this November. What do I think? Yeah. So if I had to pick a state, I'd pick Pennsylvania as sort of the deal maker or breaker. Trump won it in 2016. Biden won it in 2020, very narrowly both times. The second one I would pick is Wisconsin. Those states in there are going to be critically important. To me, Michigan still feels like a state that ultimately is going to go for Biden. I could be wrong, but ultimately will go for Biden. But to me, Pennsylvania number 1, Wisconsin number 2. And I think it could come down to like 100,000 votes between those 2 states, and that could decide who the president of the United States is. Let's see. Whoops, sorry. Going through. Sorry. Matthew White, have I listened to Bill Clinton's famous 1995 State of the Union speech on immigration? What are your thoughts on why the Democratic Party has shifted so significantly to the left on this policy? I mean, I definitely watched it at the time, but I don't know that I've read it lately. I will do that. And maybe next week I'll come back and answer your question. By the way, did people like the last week's thing that I did with the C-SPAN and then me in the corner, sort of like Mystery Science Theater 3000 for politics, talking about the speech? Is that the kind of thing that we should do in the future? Let me know in the comment section. Even if you don't like it, I'm not like fishing for. I don't really know how to fish, but I assume that's what fishing for compliments looks like. I'm not trying to do that. Like, if you didn't like it, tell me. Let's see. Just Diney. Trump's dad lived to 96, I believe, so he could be here for a while. Yes, I agree. Terry Height. Do I usually read Bob Woodward's books about the president? So I know Bob a little bit, and I try to. Do I read every page of every one? No, I don't. Sorry. Is it too early? Randy T, is it too early for beer? What beer do you like? All right, this is not going to go over well. I'm not really a beer drinker. I drink cider. I love hard cider. So if you have hard cider suggestions, please send them to me. I'm always in the mood for options there, but I never really loved beer. Okay. Sham, love this. I met you once through your producer, Carol Alderman. She's the best. I love her. We worked together at the Washington Post on Sequizzo, which was my quiz show podcast and the greatest name of all time. I work for Obama. My question is Biden's strategy just that all the Democrats will come home? So I think it's a couple fold. yes, I think it is that sort of like given the choice again between like coffee and mouse, they're going to have to choose coffee or mouse, right? And they're not going to choose mouse if mouse is Donald Trump. They're going to choose coffee, which is Joe Biden. I think that's at least a theory of the case. I also think it is that they believe, and I don't know if I agree, but they believe that democracy is on the ballot. Capital D democracy. That's me doing a D. Capital D democracy is on the ballot. And that Trump, his overthrowing attempt to overthrow the 2020 election, January 6th, everything he said since, denying the election results, that people care about that and people are going to vote on that. We've never had a president who tried to overturn an election, so I can't tell, and then run again. So I can't tell you like, oh, sure, that will work, or no, that won't work. But like, that's the theory. Carol Alderman is the best. I miss her. DB says, I voted for Obama twice, Trump the first time, and Biden last time. I actually think that's you are not alone, DB. Fergal O'Toole said, heading to my hometown this weekend. I'll say hello for you. Marlborough, Connecticut. You're going to Marlborough, Connecticut? Really? Like a tiny town in Eastern Connecticut where I'm from. If you are, cool. Thank you. Let's see. Chris Moore, who do you think are some possible future Democratic candidates for president? Sure. Kamala Harris, like her or not, she's going to run for president at some point, probably in 2028. Pete Buttigieg, going to run again for president. Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan, going to run for president. Gavin Newsom from California, going to run for president. Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, almost certainly going to run for president. J.B. Pritzker from Illinois would like to run for president. Don't know if the timing will line up, but would like to run for president. I think that's sort of like if you had to do the like 2028 list, I think that's where we would start. And I think Harris would start as the front runner. I don't know if she would win, but I think she would start as the front runner. Sam says, please talk college basketball. Sincerely, a long-suffering Memphis Tigers fan. Dude, I just spent 6 years of Patrick Ewing. It was a disaster at Georgetown. And again, I got nothing else. At least Memphis is quasi good at football. Georgetown is not good at football. We're not even Division 1A. Okay, KM, let's step away from the madness of the presidential election for a moment. That was me stepping away. In my opinion, where do you think Dems will pick up seats? What about the GOP? Will Dems hold on to the Senate? All right, so I'm assuming you're talking about the Senate. Let's set where we are currently. By the way, 133 people on this live stream right now. Awesome. Well done. Thank you. That's great. That makes me feel good. This is a good time to tell you, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to my Substack, chrislalissa.substack.com. Senate. So right now, Democrats have a 1-seat majority. I think that effectively we're going into this election with the Senate being even. And the reason for it is this. In West Virginia, Joe Manchin, a Democrat, is not running for re-election. There is no Democrat who is going to win that seat. So that seat is basically gone. I know it won't happen until November, but that seat is basically gone. So now we're even, right? So if Democrats control the White House, then they control the Senate. If Republicans control the White House, they control the Senate. There are a bunch of other seats worth at least mentioning. I'll mention 2 big ones. Ohio, Sherrod Brown, the Democrat, is running for re-election in the state that Donald Trump won by 9 points in 2020. The primary is a 3-way race. It's really close. Republican primary, a 3-way race. It's this coming Tuesday. The other one is in Montana. John Tester is a 2-term Democratic senator. Republicans got lucky. This guy named Matt Rosendale, who's a member of Congress, was running, dropped out of the race. So now the nominee is going to be a guy named Tim Sheehy, veteran, businessman, never run for anything before, definitely their best candidate. So I think both of those are going to be hard because, again, Montana, I think Trump won by 10 or 12. So you got to overperform the top of the ticket by a significant amount in Ohio and Montana if you are either Sherrod Brown or John Tester, and that's hard. It's doable, but hard. The problem for Democrats is they don't really have any good options. Like there are no Republican seats that are in serious danger right now. The other thing is just purely math. There are 23 Democratic held seats up for re-election in 2024 in November and just 11 Republican held seats, right? So it's just not a great cycle to be Republicans. Democrats rather, if I had to guess, I would say Republicans win the Senate majority. Let's see. Okay, people like the Sodu get together. That's great. Good. Sam says, yes, that was fun. Matt Heighthouse said, loved it. Tammy Cochran said, I really enjoyed the Sodu get together. Good. That makes me happy. Oh, interesting. Okay, Marcy B said, kind of. Every time I spoke, the speech's volume lowered, so I watched it on CNN and had your chat on the iPad. Yeah, so it's challenging in that I didn't want to mute Biden, but I wanted to offer a little commentary. So I was going for a Mystery Science Theater 3000 vibe. If you've never seen Mystery Science Theater 3000, just Google it. It's an amazing show. It's like watching bad movies and just offering wry commentary. That's what I'm trying to go for. So just so you know what I'm going for. Lee Bulldog says Bold Rock, a Virginia cider, and Down East, a Massachusetts one, are great. Okay, Bold Rock I've had for sure. I know it's Virginia. I've had and I like it. Let's see if I can get Down East. Eric Krudzinski said, I liked it on the SOTU thing, but I think you could talk more with better sound ratio. I don't know what better sound ratio means, but I could try. No, it won't happen. This is Matt Heighthouse. No, it won't happen, but would an election that the winner was just the one that got more votes lead to more people voting in solid? Wait, hold on. I just lost it. Please hold. Oh, dear. Blah. Oh, okay. Okay, here's great. It is again. No, it won't happen, but would an election that the winner was just the one that got more votes lead to more people voting in solid D or R states? Probably. Yeah. You mean if we just did the popular vote and not the electoral college? Probably. Sure. It would probably lead. I mean, I don't know how much more, but yeah. I mean, I think if it was just a pure raw vote, you could say your vote really matters. I mean, I grew up in Connecticut. Donald Trump's not winning Connecticut, so people in Connecticut, they'll vote, but within reason. Okay, interesting. Tammy Cochran said, full disclosure, I watched the speech on my TV and watched the chats on your stream, so I really appreciated when you gave written comments over talking live because I missed a lot of that. Okay, that's interesting. So I found myself, like, it was a little easier for me just to talk rather than be like, this is my keyboard, by the way. I use one of these magic wireless keyboards. Then just knock it out here. But that's good. Good. Thank you. Johnny Heritage, love the live stream for State of the Union. It's like watching the event at a bar with a group of friends. Who knew the cane would be the MVP? Totally agree. So for people who didn't watch the live stream, I think it was Al Green from Texas. He was in the shot of the State of the Union, and not actually him, but he would raise his cane and shake it, and it would get in the side of the screen. It made me laugh. Let's see. Oh, Fergal too. My wife is from Marlboro, Kellogg Road. They had a coffee table book with famous people from Connecticut, and you were listed for Marlboro. Wow, I made it. Yes, I grew up on Cheney Road, 154 Cheney Road. My father's passed away. My mom lives down near me in Virginia, but 154 Cheney Road. That was where I grew up. Yep, only child. Let's see. John Hoare, greetings from Cornwall, UK. Absolutely. Got hooked during your CNN coverage in 2020. We could have election 2 days after yours. Yes. Ray Sider, I recommend Rattler, Cornwall's best export since the pasty. Okay. Cornwall's best expert, Rattler. I'll try that out. Thank you. And John, thanks for watching. Kevin W. In general, even though I'm very engaged with politics, I've quit talking about it to friends and family because it damages those relationships. How do we try to move the needle if we believe the polls? Man, great question, and a really, really hard one to answer because people are in their own silos now, which is, I'm sure, what you found. People read, watch, listen to stuff that affirms their viewpoint, right? One of the hardest things for me in building a YouTube channel or building a Substack is trying not to be, I'm not super partisan by nature. So that's hard because being super partisan is better financially. It builds your following faster because people want to hear what they think affirmed and regurgitated back to them. I haven't done that, but it's hard. I agree. I wish I could say you should talk to your family and friends about politics, but you probably shouldn't. Tanya Gravett says Andy Beshear in Kentucky. Yes. So that's talking about 2028. Yes, Andy Beshear, 2 terms, elected to 2 terms as the Kentucky governor. The only problem I think he might have is he too moderate to win a Democratic primary? Like, he'd be a great nominee in the presidential race, like general election, but is he too moderate to win a primary? I don't know. Jeremiah, hi, Chris. I'm certain that Gretchen Whitmer will be president someday. She's a popular governor from a swing state. Thoughts? Well, I think she's going to run for president. I think she has a lot of great skills. I think she's a gifted communicator. She comes from a big industrial Midwest swing state, which is a good thing in a primary and a general election. Um, but like, it's hard to predict who's going to be really good when the lights come on, right? Ron DeSantis 2 years ago, it was like, he's the governor of Florida. He just won overwhelmingly, got reelected. Like there was a case to be made like, oh, Ron DeSantis, he's great. And then like Ron DeSantis' actual candidate was terrible. I don't know if that's Whitmer. Maybe it's not. But like predicting that someone's going to be president, I'm always skeptical of. She will run. I think she'll be a credible and serious candidate. That's about as far as I'm willing to go. Let's see. A lot of great questions, by the way. Thank you. Real European Patriot. Hey, Chris, can you tell who's the only president of the last three to prevent Russian aggression? I assume that you're going to say it was Trump because there were no wars, but okay. Marcy B, I've seen Mystery Science Theater 3000. It's the best, right? Love that thing. Kevin W, the audio on the Sotu was a bit weird because of the volume changes. That is weird. I did not know that it was adjusting the volume. I'll work on that. Just 90. It is very, very rare for a president to lose a second term. It only happened once or twice. Well, I mean, in modern times, you're right. Although, like, look, George H.W. Bush lost in 1992. Donald Trump lost in 2020. So, I mean, it happens, but you're right. Like, George W. Bush was elected to 2 terms. Barack Obama was elected to two terms. Bill Clinton was elected to 2 terms. So, yeah, like, I get it. By the way, over 150 people on live chat right now is the stream, which is great. Rich Adams, does Kennedy's VP picks cost him some validity, do you think? That assumes he had validity. I don't know. It's so hard for me to figure out who a Kennedy voter is. Like, what's motivating that person? Is it just because they like the Kennedy name? Is it something specific about Kennedy they like? Do they like his stance on vaccine stuff? Do they like the conspiracy theory stuff? Do they like some other issue position on environment or something? I don't know. So it's so hard for me to isolate like what an RFK Jr. voter is that I can't really tell you that like picking Jesse Ventura or the real work guys at Mike Howe or Aaron Rodgers changes things. I just think picking Aaron Rodgers is like there's a celebrity piece to that will get some people interested in it, and people who don't care about the election might vote for him. That's all. Let's see. Jared Polis from California, Colorado. John Sabini suggests yes. Jared Polis, I think, governor of Colorado, would be interesting. I think he's done a lot of interesting things on the policy front in Colorado, and not predictably liberal at all times. So he's an interesting guy. Yes, should be mentioned in the 2028 race. Kevin W, thanks for the response. No problem. Your nonpartisan perspective is why I became a Substack subscriber. I hope lots of others value that as well. Man, me too. It is tough. I will tell you, like, if I just wrote how bad Donald Trump was every day, I'd have more subscribers. I would. But that's not me. In the same way that if I just wrote how bad Joe Biden was every day, I'd have more subscribers, but that's just not me. It's a harder road for sure, but thank you for supporting it. Chris Hyde said, for sure, people want to be in their own echo chamber. No doubt about it. Yes, they do. I wish they didn't, but they do. Joan DeArc, more commentary from Chris during things like Sodu streams. Okay. Like, I like doing that. It was fun. So I'm going to keep doing it. Oh, Sam, I love this. If Kennedy picks Jesse Ventura, that will mean 2 WWE Hall of Famers are on the ballot. Yes, it will, because Donald Trump is in the WWE Hall of Fame. Yes, he is, the WWE Hall of Fame. There were 2 storylines in the 1990s and early 2000s that featured Donald Trump. He played Mr. Trump, which was like not a big stretch, a rich guy who tries to buy World Wrestling Entertainment from Vince McMahon. It's like a leverage buyout or something. I wrote about it in my book, which, by the way, quick plug for my book. It is called Power Players, Sports Politics in the American Presidency. It came out in April, about a year ago now. Basically goes through from Truman to Biden, the sports presidents played, loved, and watched, and like what it tells us about who they are. I loved writing it. I hope it's an easy read. It's not like this thick. It's like this thick. It's like 300 pages, not 3,000 pages. Jorg Pronger, I'm glad I found you again after you weren't on CNN anymore. I'm glad I found myself after I wasn't on CNN anymore. Thank you. I'm thrilled. Esoteric Jebus just hopped in. Happy Friday. I'm here at week 4 weeks in a row. There we go. We got a streak going. Makes me happy. I like doing these things. Oh gosh. Okay. Just so people don't think I'm ignoring things. Real American European patriot. Hey, Chris was trying to remove the Republican nominee from the ballot, a quote unquote threat to democracy. So again, look, I get the talking points here. I have said repeatedly that I thought it was a mistake to try to get Donald Trump off the ballot via legal means. I think that is even if there's legal case to be made there, and I'm not a lawyer, even if there's a legal case to be made there, I don't know. In fact, I believe that is not the way. If you think Donald Trump needs to be gone from the body politic, right? If he needs to be removed eventually from politics to move the Republican Party, move on, the way to do it is not the legal way. The way to do it is the ballot box. And I think the only way to do it is the ballot box. If you want to beat Donald Trump, if you think Donald Trump is bad for the country, you need to vote against him. It's just as simple as that. Removing him via codicil in the 14th Amendment, not going to work. With Congress being so, this is James H. With Congress being so tight, what are my thoughts on the third party having an opportunity this cycle to control the swing vote in Congress? They would only need to hold a few seats in the House. That's true. At the same time, I don't think not that I know of at least, there's not a lot of third party candidates running for House seats that are credible and viable. But you're right. Like that would be intriguing. I think one of the mistakes, just making sure I didn't miss something. I think one of the mistakes that third parties make is they start from the top down rather than the bottom up, right? So they start at the presidential level. I actually think you'd be way better served to start at the House level, and a little bit of money goes a long way at that level. And like you said, become kind of like the key to the governing coalition and then move upward. You start the presidential race, it's just such a high bar, right? People's partisanship is so baked in at the presidential level. It's so expensive. It's so hard to get on the ballot. There's just a lot of hurdles there. Let's see. RSS, I miss seeing Chris on CNN. Don't miss seeing me on CNN. I mean, I enjoyed being on CNN. I'll probably, hopefully, be back on TV sometimes, but it is not the be all end all. Like, I enjoyed it. It was really fun. I'm always happy to go on again, but it's not the be all end all. Let's see. KM, a moment ago, you were talking about Dem candidates for 2028. Presuming DJT loses in 2024, will he be over and done with? Does he have any juice to get the non-2028, or will he finally be done? So I did answer this earlier. I don't think Donald Trump is done with the Republican Party until Donald Trump is dead. Sorry to be blunt, but I think that's true. Does that mean he would be the 2028 nominee? I don't know. I think he might be interested in being the 2028 nominee. He'd be a 2-time loser at that point. I think it's a little harder to make the like everything has been rigged against me for the last 8 years argument, though he would probably try. What I'm more intrigued by is when Trump goes, does Trumpism go with him, right? If it's a cult of personality, usually that cult is built around a single person. Is it transferable? Like, is Donald Trump Jr. a candidate? Is Sarah Huckabee Sanders a candidate? Are the people who are a little less connected to him, like, but still kind of in that Trumpist vein, like Tom Cotton of Arkansas or Josh Hawley of Missouri, are they sort of the next iteration of Trumpism, or does it go away? Or do we return back to something, or we return back to what Republicans were in 2012, or do we go to a new version of what Republicans are? I don't know. Let's see. Anderson, can anything be done to convince voters next election will not be rigged? No. Because people believe that, well, not everyone believes the next election will be rigged, to be clear, but there is a subset of people in this country who do believe that and who will continue to believe it, especially if Donald Trump doesn't win. And I don't think you can change their minds, genuinely. Even if Donald Trump came out and said the election isn't rigged, I think they would still think it was rigged and that he was part of some grander conspiracy. Ephraim Burke, I look forward to the point each week. I like the style of getting right to the point. There you go. But we don't call it the point anymore because that was at CNN. Now we call it so what? Speaking of, this is Esoteric Jebus. Speaking of third parties, the only Prohibition Party member to win election in the 21st century died recently. R.I.P. Jim Hedges. Okay, I did not know that. Pierre Robert, the court of public opinion is the only court that will vote on removing Trump. Vote, yes, 100% agree. I just don't think trying to get Trump out on legal means is going to work. Also, sidebar, the idea that, oh, he's going to be convicted of a crime and then the Republican Party will turn on him, I don't see that either. I don't think we're going to get a trial before the 2024 election, genuinely. Troy Van Wingen, do the Dems or reps have the ability to change the candidates at the convention this year if a candidate finds out they have a terminal illness still locked into the nomination? So if that happened, yes, there is a way. They would have to resign. Like, both Trump and Biden are now formally their party's nominees. They have the requisite number of delegates to formally be the nominee. So in order to not be the nominee, they would have to resign or step away, and formally submit a request saying, look, I can't be the nominee for X, Y, or Z reason. And then a smaller group of people, particularly if the primaries are already over, like at the convention, probably party regulars, there's a rule, I don't know what it is, would pick the nominee. So yeah, they can be replaced, definitely up until the convention. It gets more complicated after the convention if ballots start going out and that sort of thing, and somebody dies. It's happened in the House. It's happened in the Senate. That's when you get into really tough areas. XPFC Wintergreen V20. Chris, I enjoy your tone, enthusiastic journalism. I try, man. Like, I like doing this. This is fun, right? We got to do stuff that we're passionate about in life. Thank you. Jörg Pronger, again from Germany. What do you think about the likelihood of Trump winning in November, and what would be the consequences for Europe, in your opinion, then? Like I said, I think I'd put a pinky on the scale, just a pinky, on the scale for Trump at this point to win. Consequences for Europe. Look, Trump is much less of an internationalist, more of an isolationist in trade and in everything else. I think, look at what he has said about the UN and NATO, and that suggests to me that it would be a very different place. Mark Parkinson, Chris, I'm old enough to remember when nightly news was 15 minutes on 3 networks. Now that national politics and all followed media has nationalized, how does all politics are local get coverage? Man, I actually don't think all politics are local anymore at all. I think all politics are national. I remember back in, let's call it 2008 even. It was a big deal. Like, John McCain was against ethanol subsidies, right? Which most people don't care about. But in Iowa, the caucuses, it was a big deal. And he skipped Iowa because of that, because he didn't think he could win being against ethanol subsidies. Did you hear the word ethanol mentioned one time in the run-up to this Republican Iowa caucuses? No. Were there any local issues discussed in New Hampshire? Did Donald Trump really even campaign that actively in New Hampshire? No. Did he campaign actively in South Carolina? Not really. I just think it's all national. I think it's all national now. Sham says, totally agree with you. You don't get rid of Donald Trump by courts removing him. Democracy, people voting is the way. If we are a country that votes him in, that's just who we are. I totally agree. Yes. Look, he got 74 million votes last time. He won 4 years before that. So, like, the idea that, like, he is an anomaly, not really. You know, a lot of people support him and they know what he is. Like, there's no debate about what Donald Trump is at this point. People like him because of that, not in spite of it. Jeff Dunaway, Chris, do you think there will be a House vote on the Ukraine funding? If necessary, can Dems get a discharge position through forcing a vote? I don't know. Mike Johnson the Speaker of the House has held this up, saying we're not going to do this. If they put it on the floor, it would pass, right? Because a ton of Democrats would vote for it and enough Republicans would vote for it. That's a hard reality, I think, for Mike Johnson. But again, the reason it's not on the floor is because the House Freedom Caucus, which are the most pro-Trumpy Republicans in the House, don't want it. They don't want more money to go to Ukraine. This is sort of the J.D. Vance position. We need to shore up our country before we shore up other countries. So he's kind of in a rock and a hard place. And Mike Johnson, honestly, it's a terrible job. I don't know why you'd ever want to be Speaker of the House in a 2-seat Republican majority. Anyway, on the Tammy Cochran, on the Don Lemon thing, any chance Elon affiliated with Don that ended his contract as a way to get more attention? On Don's The View interview today, he sounds like Elon really courted him. I don't think so. Look, I know Don and I don't know Elon Musk. I like Don. Don was my friend. Don put me on TV. Don was supportive of me both during my time at CNN and after my time at CNN. So I'm pro Don. Let me put that out there. I think Elon Musk has generally shown an unpredictability, shall we call it? And this seems to be of a piece with that, right? Like, Don asked him some questions in an interview he didn't like, and that was it. When you own the company, you can make that call. But I'm pro Don. So that's that. Just Diney. More and more, the question is about where do the Haley voters go? How many Republicans left the party? How many Republicans died from COVID or old age? Trump's base. I don't think enough Republicans died from COVID or old age that it's going to matter in the election. Where do the Haley voters go is a really good question that I wish I had a better answer for. Honestly, I think we're still trying to figure that out. Again, I return to that binary choice, right? Last time I'm going to do this. These are your options: coffee or mouse. You got to vote for one of them. You can't vote for book. Whoops. You got to vote for coffee or mouse. So it's Biden or Trump. So if it's Biden or Trump and you're a Republican and you don't want Biden, well, Trump is your option, even if you don't like him. So I don't know how many of the Haley people are like holdouts, like they will not vote for. So the options are: will not vote for Trump and vote for Biden, will not vote for Trump and stay home, or will hold nose and vote for Trump. I don't know where each of those fit in, right? Oh, Official and Fire Flame says they vote for coffee in 2024. Look, it's not a bad option. I bought this coffee like 30 minutes ago. That's way younger than 77 years old and 81 years old. Okay, I gotta go work out. I gotta go do a workout. Stay fit. So I am going to I'm gonna go do that. This was great. More people were on this live stream than we've ever had before, which makes me happy. Spread the word, subscribe, check out my Substack, chrissaliza.substack.com. And I'll be back next Friday. We'll do it all again. And in the meantime, don't forget, I'm making videos every single day on YouTube. Some are good, some are okay. I hope none are bad. I'm really trying to build this muscle. So if you have suggestions, if you have ideas, let me know. I am going to try and do more live event stuff, like the State of the Union. Again, if you have ideas on that, salizac@gmail.com, or put it in the comment section and I'll check it out. Have a wonderful weekend. Mine will be filled with driving kids to and from sporting events, which actually brings me a lot of joy. Anyway, have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves.